It's Brian Forbes. This is the Black Factor. So I want to say welcome to everybody. I want to welcome my Black Factor family. Thank y'all for checking in and coming and hanging out with me. 7 o'clock on Wednesdays, like always. But don't forget, before we get started, do not forget to hit those like, subscribe, share buttons. You got to support us, you know what I'm saying? You got to support black media, y'all. You got to do that. You got to do that because we're the only ones going to give you the truth. We're going to give it to you like you need to have it. Like, we're not going to get into what we're going to talk about on this show today, which is propaganda. We're going to give it to you real, 100% all the time. You know what I'm talking about? Oh So Smooth family is checking in. Thank you all for hanging out with me. I want to say hello to you all. Oh So Smooth Radio simulcast company. My man DJ Shorty Smooth over there doing his thing. Y'all don't forget you can download that app at iTunes or at the Play Store. So in case you just want to listen to the Oh So Smooth radio shows that come on every day, some of the hottest DJs, man, in the land. I'm talking about people from all the way across this whole nation that play that good music, man. You can't beat it. I tell you what. So with that said, y'all, tonight's show is going to be a burner. So y'all get ready and let's get this party started. All right. We in the building, y'all. We about to get this thing cranked up. So look, tonight, y'all, we're going to talk about propaganda. We're going to talk about propaganda, lies, and misinformation for the most part. So look, like I could talk about this topic. I could get into this thing talking about, the propaganda part. But I'm really realizing, like, after doing my homework, that even the things that I'm going to say in regard to this topic, I'm not even going to really be able to, like, scratch the surface on what this whole thing really means about propaganda. I had to really do some soul searching. I had to reevaluate my own life after I got through doing this homework and checking things out, because when you think about it and you put it all into perspective, you kind of start to realize, like, damn, everything around us, everything we deal with on a day-to-day involves some level of propaganda, some level of lies, some level of misinformation or an untruth. It's crazy. Hey, Renner Ford, I see you. Thank you for checking in. It's insane. And really, I hope by the end of this show that all of us will, like, really start to try to take account of some of the things that we listen to and the information that we take in and how we process it and what we do with it, when it's all said and done. It means that each of us have to give, like, we have to stop and give pause, and question, everything we, I guess, thought we knew. Because if you think about it, all of us are born without any information. We're like a blank computer. We're like a hard drive that doesn't have anything on it. And so at some point, you have to really, like, decide, or you have to figure out how you got programmed. Because if you think about it, the human brain comes into the world, there's nothing there. Things start being input into that. And this is how we form our ideas and our thoughts and the way we do things in life. So it starts to, you really start to kind of analyze and you realize, like, okay, our parents told us this or led us to believe that based on a set of behaviors or, words, and this is who formed who we are. None of us are the same, but some of us do share a lot of the same ideology. So what we have to analyze is how much of it is propaganda or propagandized ideas and how much of it was the truth. And here's the real truth. Nobody would like to believe that their parents would tell them a lie deliberately. And the fact is, our parents, or the people who groom us or raise us, are only as good as the information that they receive. So then it comes down to a matter of, what did they receive? What era did they grow up in? And what information were they given in their growth? And how did that get passed down? And did it take hold? How much of it was true? How much of it wasn't? See, this is a rabbit hole, y'all. I ain't gonna lie. I'm struggling a little bit with it, but we're gonna try and work through it together. So, I mean, let's just face the facts. The truth is the truth. The lie is a lie. But then you have to ask yourself, how do lies become the truth? I know this sounds crazy, like I'm chasing my tail. But the thing is, if somebody popular says something, people start to believe it, which is amazing to me. It's like nobody questions a person who is popular. I don't want to say successful, because everybody who's popular is not necessarily successful. They're successful becoming popular, but I mean, think about it. Like, we have a president right now who says all sorts of things, and people just jump all over the bandwagon. We'll get to that later. But you know, the funny thing is, there was a time, I would say within the last 100 years, if you were one of those people who had a bunch of rants and raves and you were always like on some like fantastical rant about something that you like, you thought you saw a spaceship or something like that, you know, they used to be able to institutionalize people. They could put you in a crazy house for saying stuff like that. But, you know, now that not so much, because, you know, a lot of people who weren't crazy got institutionalized. So that's something that I think, you know, that got stopped. But then the other side of that coin is that now we have every like unstudied whack job who decides that they want to run down some conspiracy rabbit hole, saying whatever they want to say on social media, which is like, now we don't need propaganda posters and flyers and leaflets and all of the different things that people used to use in order to spread messages. Now you got the internet, man, the interwebs, and the internet is undefeated. Like, it's so much crazy stuff going on the internet. You have to be very careful to pick and choose what it is that you decide to ingest. I mean, let's keep it 100. You know, and I don't know if people knew this, but there was a time historically, I don't know if they still do this or not, but there used to be a time when you could, like they said, like in the grocery stores, everybody always wondered why they played certain music in the grocery stores. Well, the grocery store music had subliminal messages in it, and it was designed to cause you to purchase certain items or to think down a certain path in order to, you know, see what it is that you wanted to buy. Which, if you think about it, you know, a lot of people don't necessarily believe that this is kind of a thing, but let's think about this. These people don't spend all of these millions of dollars studying human behavior and all these type of things for nothing. That money is spent because they're trying to understand and study how the human mind thinks and what moves people, what makes people act the way they do and buy the things that they do. They literally spend billions of dollars on this. So it's not that far much of a stretch for some novice person to decide, well, I'm going to start saying these weird things and see how many people catch on. I mean, you look at social media, you look at the TikTok and some of these other things, and you got people on there that say all kinds of wild things. I mean, they just started on Facebook with the misinformation campaign, fact checking stuff. They had to do that because so many people have been turned loose with a media weapon, a media machine. We all have media machines sitting in front of us right now. Each and every one of us can create content and develop a world of followers. Because if you think about it, I mean, as a blogger, as a person who does these podcasts and things like this every day, you know, we sit here and we think to ourselves, oh, we got 15,000 followers. We got 20,000 followers and on this platform, that platform, and that platform. But then if you really, really think about it, to us, that's a lot of followers. To me, that's a hell of a lot of followers. But in the grand scheme of the population of the world, that's nothing. That doesn't even scratch the surface. There are billions of people on the planet, and we have access to all of them. So how crazy is it if a person is able to get 15, 20, 30,000 followers, 50,000 followers, and they're following some nonsense that what they like to refer to as goes viral? Because if your tweet or your message gets that many people to pay attention to it, you've actually gone viral. Now the question becomes, are the things that you're saying accurate? Are the things that you're saying reasonable? Are you considered to be a voice of the people, or are you just insane with rants? And some people just find that funny, so they'll watch it anyway. Um, you just sit there and But if we're not careful, this is how, back in the 16th century, if we start to criticize the things that people say, this is how witch hunts started. You have a person like say a Donald Trump who points at that guy over there. He's a witch. Why? Because he doesn't like the way that guy said something to him, or didn't like the fact that he was a competition for him. So now all of a sudden this guy has to defend his life against a bunch of people who suddenly believe that he's a witch just because somebody popular said it. So the question becomes, is the truth real, or is propaganda the truth? Or does it depend on who you ask? Or does propaganda become the truth if you say it enough times? We've seen that happen recently. We've watched that sort of nonsense become a real issue. We have a guy right now running around who keeps saying he won an election, and his very people that he put in place have repeatedly said, no, you didn't. His own people. Now, I talked to a guy just the other day who told me about election fraud, which I thought was very interesting. He didn't know anything about my background, so he didn't know that I have followed this and studied all of this stuff. And he said, oh, it's just, it's what I know. It's not what I think, it's what I know. I said, well, what do you know? Because I want to know too. And I said, because, I like to have I like to have information. I like to know these things. I want to know so that I can tell my people what you know, because I want to know too. And I'm not here to, this is not a battle. This is not I'm not going to sit here and argue with you. Just tell me the information. Well, of course, that didn't go anywhere because he didn't have any information. And so I asked him, I said, well, did you know that in recent months they completed an audit out in Arizona where it was claimed that all of these fraudulent votes were brought in? I said, done by the very people who thought that they were robbed, and they actually found more votes for Biden than they did Donald Trump. And they completed it, and they said that it was accurate. I said, so did you hear about that? And he told me no. Well, of course not. Why? Because the people who wanted to provide the other side of the propaganda is the people he decided he wanted to listen to. So I said, well, I like both sides of every story, and I'm interested in your side, but needless to say, he didn't have one to tell. So then that was that. Propaganda. That's information, especially if of a biased or misleading nature, used to promote or publicize a particular political cause or point of view. So in other words, people take the information that they choose and use it in their favor. Now see, while that sounds like some sort of scholarly explanation, it sounds like a lie to me. I mean, like, the funny part is, can we not say that we know people? Skip the politics, skip all that. Do we not know people who operate their own propaganda campaigns all the time? Do we not know people who go on social media and pretend like they're living the high life? Do we not know men who walk around and claim that every woman they date is a dime? Do we not know women who claim they won't take this off a man and they won't do that with a man, and they do just the opposite? There is some level of propaganda, I think, in most people. I think that we all are capable of waging a propaganda campaign all the time. And it's like, it's like when you think about propaganda, the only thing you can think of is nothing more than a fancy word for a lie. I mean, what are we talking about here, really? Now, there are a number of propaganda techniques. Again, welcome, y'all. Thank you for coming in and hanging out with me, everybody. I appreciate you. I always like to see my folks come in and say hello, y'all. So there are a number of techniques based on social psychological research and are used to generate propaganda. Many of these same techniques can be classified as logical fallacies. Now, What is a logical fallacy? It means that there is a reasonable, plausible possibility that a lie could actually be the truth. See how dangerous that is? Like you can take that lie and twist it until it sounds good enough for a person to think, well, that's reasonable. It's kind of like beyond a reasonable doubt. Propagandists use arguments that, while sometimes convincing, are not necessarily valid. We see this happen in politics on a regular basis. Alfred M. Lee and Elizabeth B. Lee classified the propaganda devices into 7 major categories. 1, name calling. Now, who do we know that was doing a lot of that last year? Well, every year. Shit. Glittering generalities. Oh, everybody said this, and everybody knows that, and everybody said I was the greatest. Everybody. Who? You know everybody. I don't know that guy. Glittering generalities. 3, transfer. That's more like whataboutism. See, all of these are propaganda techniques. Whataboutism. Transfer. I want to transfer since I can't answer the question. Well, what about this? Well, don't worry. What about you didn't do this? But the question was, what did you do? See, transfer. Now, we know people who do this in their relationships. So I'm just saying. Testimonial. They've always got a story to tell. They'll make up a story. Yeah, I met this little boy, and he was so happy that I showed up and said hello to him. And really, where'd you meet this boy? Oh, over by the building. Where? By the house. Yeah, okay. Plain folk. In other words, you don't want to come off as being too highfalutin. You want to be seen as a normal, everyday guy. And so you make yourself out to be plain folk. And then in card stacking. So you stack the cards against those who you are having banter with in order to make yourself seem smarter. And then you have the bandwagon. That, of course, are the other people who are standing right next to you and know you telling a lie and be like, yeah, that's what happened. Come on now. That's that bandwagon, no matter. So all of a sudden, just like with this last election, the lie began with, I won the election. Everybody said so. Glittering generalities. And the next thing you know, other people jumped on board that bandwagon. And next thing you know, the lie now has to have some truth. It has to have those glittering generalities, and it has to have those, it must be true, it's plausible. That could have happened. It could have. No, it couldn't. Long-term propaganda campaign has been in full effect in the black community for over 400 years, y'all. We unfortunately are still attempting to right the wrongs of propaganda dealt to the black community. Now, if you believe propagandists, they would have you to believe that black bodies belong in a field, picking cotton, in chains. If you believe these propagandists, you would also believe that black people are violent criminals who are lazy and shiftless, or that black people only like watermelon, fried chicken, and pork chops. See, that's propaganda. That's propaganda campaign. Speaking on propaganda in that regard to the image of black folks. Y'all ever seen that cartoon where they talk about where they had the magpies? Or the Bugs Bunny cartoons where he was actually in blackface? See, they banned most of these. You can't really find them anymore. Or you had the Al Jolsons of the world back in the day with the stage acts where they were in blackface, and you had the vaudeville acts and all the different things that depicted black people in negative images. These are all part of propaganda. These are all part of supplying information to people because the agenda is to move the thought process of the masses toward those who want something or want to take something away. So by taking away the dignity, the opportunity, and image of one group of people, thereby allowing one to control those people. All of that's part of the propaganda, y'all. Now, propaganda was primarily used throughout history during wartime and political battles. Propaganda used in war, it has to demoralize. See? You see how that works? See how that goes back to what I just said about black folks. The whole idea behind propaganda in war, this is a war, in case y'all didn't know, is to demoralize, dehumanize. And when you demoralize a group, your objective is to break down their will to fight. Now, how often do we hear from black folks, oh, there's no need in voting. It don't do us no good. That is the breakdown of your will to fight. In other words, don't fight it. You're not going to win. Why bother? That's all part of propaganda. It's what the Germans did. It's what they did in Vietnam. At least they tried it. And the fact is, the whole idea was to stop people from even trying. In other words, we're going to get in your head. Think about it. When you watch a boxing match or some of the other sports, how many times have you seen one athlete go up to another and do something or say something as an attempt to intimidate them? Like, yeah, don't even get in the ring. Yeah. And that fighter's like, ooh. See, that's that breaking down of the will. It's all propaganda. That fighter might not even be able to fight. Just like on the playground. Back in the day, we'd be at school. And the loudest guy on the block, on the playground, making all the noise. Yeah, I'm a put your ass. I'm a. All of that's part of the propaganda. See, because he really doesn't want to fight. But what he wants to do is try and bring you down a few rungs. Just in case he does have to fight you, that way he can be inside your head, rent-free, before the fight begins. It seeks to lower the enemy's will to resist, and it does this in several ways. One is to picture the military successes on the propagandist side. Another is to picture of the armed might and economic power that the enemy has to face. In other words, I'm going to stand in front of you and I'm going to pull up my muscles. I'm going to show you these guns. See, that's letting you know. I'm showing you what I got so that it intimidates you, make you scared. You're like, yeah, wait a minute. That boy got some big old arms. I don't know. See, that's that. I'm powerful enough to give you trouble. But in wartime, they deal with it in economics. Aside from military might, yet another is the pictures of moral superiority of the cause in which the enemy is fighting. It is part of a nation's strategic plan to intimidate enemy leaders, to separate from their people, and to break down resistance by producing evidence that the mass of enemy people have been deceived and misled. So in other words, what they want to do, their goal here, is to make you believe that they have the moral high ground. This is what happens when we watch these evangelical Christians during election time and their hypocrisy. This is how they think they have the moral high ground. So they think that when they say something, God is speaking through them, no matter how foul what comes out of their mouth may be. No matter how wrong or against the very religion that they're supposed to be practicing is. They just don't, they don't connect the two. In their mind, everything they do is right, no matter how bad it is. That's moral high ground. That's part of the intimidation tactic. That's part of the propaganda. We're going to sell you on the idea that God loves us, not you. So you should do what we say. You should bow down to what we want. That's propaganda, y'all. And misinformation. And so in that, they want the leaders to help to break down all the resistance, by trying to prove to people that they've been misled. We are watching that very scenario play out right now as we speak during this outbreak of my daughter. My daughter and my producer told me don't use certain keywords. Just stay away from them. So y'all know what I'm talking about. That little bug everybody walking around with. The whole idea here is that they attempted to make people feel as though they've been misled, that they've been deceived. See, so the propaganda, in my mind, goes both ways on this one. Because on the one hand, you have people who's like, oh, you should get this because you need it to stay alive. Then you have other people saying, oh, no, you shouldn't get this because they own something else. See, now you got propaganda campaign going on both sides. I truly believe that. Where's the middle ground? That's what I want to know. Deception is part of propaganda. The whole idea of making you think what they want you to think. And if you don't have a mind of your own, and this is why I'm really going into this propaganda thing, because the whole idea here is that we all need to question and think about what it is that we accept, that we take in. Because you do realize that information is a lot like food. If you eat something that's bad for you, it's going to make you sick. If you take in information that's bad for you, it will also make you sick. If you take that information in and you process it improperly, your body, your brain does not kick out the bad stuff. That's kind of what happens when you regurgitate stuff that your stomach shouldn't have in it, or you have to hit the toilet because you have to get rid of that garbage. Your mind is very much like that. You have to be able to kick out the stuff that is bad for you. Because if you process it and it goes through your system, it could very well get you in a lot of trouble. We see it happen every day. There's only 3 ways that anybody in this world can beat you. Now, I want you to pay very close attention to this part, because this applies to everybody and every time. And this is why it's so necessary for people to consistently think, especially while it's still legal. Think about the things that you are hearing. Pay attention. Sometimes we don't want to, only because it becomes burdensome. It becomes, a headache. I mean, just as an example, this show alone, as much as I love bringing information and helping people to navigate through some of this confusion, please understand, a lot of people don't watch this show because they don't want to be burdened with some of the information, because it forces them to think. It forces them to look in a mirror. It forces them to have to deal with what we are on this planet, especially in America, on a daily basis. It's difficult. It's equally as difficult for me to do this, to be honest with you, because I spend sometimes so much time thinking and reading and writing. I don't sleep sometimes. I mean, that's just a fact. Thing is, there's only 3 ways that anybody on this earth can defeat you, beat you, conquer you. That is, 1, they can outwork you. Now, it doesn't have to be that way. I'm just telling you, there are things you can do to stop these defeats. Okay? They can outwork you. That's just 1. Unless you're a person who, you get your work on, they can't outwork you. And if they try, they're gonna put in work getting there. You feel me? So just know that's only one option. The other, they can outthink you. So the question then becomes, how smart are you? How intelligent are you? How capable are you of operating within common sense and using your mind to elevate yourself and your thought processes in order to be better stronger, faster, smarter. How many people take the time to work toward making themselves better every day? A lot of people don't, this, I know this stuff, it sounds like, oh man, that's a lot of work. A lot of people, it sounds good. It's kind of like saying, every year around New Year's Eve, everybody, I'm gonna work out, I'm gonna get my body back. And then they go, it's too much work, I ain't gonna do it. And before you know it, you don't do it. As much as it takes to exercise your body, you must also exercise your mind. Not enough people are willing to do that because it's easier to be entertained. For just as an example, my dance community out there, all my people that I dance with all over the country, it's easier for us to go to these sets and turn off. We turn on our feet and we turn off our minds, and we enjoy each other's company, and it's a high. There's a high in that. There's a high in the socialization and the connection and the vibration and the energy that we feel when we dance together. There's a high when you turn on your television and you hit Netflix or one of these other networks and you want to watch a good movie, and you can just eliminate for at least a couple of hours all of the woes of the world. All of these things are so much easier than to have to question and actually think about and process some of the information that we have to deal with on a daily basis, whether we want to or not. And we run from it. It's kind of like how people run from jury duty. We'll sit here and we'll complain, and we'll get, when it hits the news, oh my God, he didn't have a jury of his peers, oh my God. But the minute your jury duty summons comes in the mail, you try to figure out a way to get out of it. And then we wonder why the conviction rate on black people is so high. See, it's much easier to walk away from these things than it is to actually deal with them. So things like this in this show, for example, make it difficult because people don't want to deal with it. And I understand. I'm not going to stop doing it, even though some days I want to. I'm not. I'm going to keep doing it. But the last way that anybody can defeat you is to intimidate you. Now, a lot of people say, well, I can't be intimidated. Anybody going to intimidate me? Well, let's be careful, because there's always somebody out there that can figure out how to get inside your head. See, that goes back to what we just talked about. The whole idea of being able to shift or mislead you into believing that you're not good enough. You're not enough. That's been part of the entire propaganda campaign throughout the history of black people being in this country. Period. That is what it is. It's always been that way. In order for them to keep us on bended knee, in order for them to keep us as much as they could from rebelling, in order for them to keep us smiling and happy in their mind, they had to keep us intimidated. That was the only way. See, some people should be very happy that the only thing black folks are asking for is equality and not seeking revenge. See, 3 ways anybody can ever beat you. They can outwork you, they can outthink you, or they can intimidate you. Now, if you refuse to be beat on any of those 3 fronts, you can't be beat. You cannot be beaten into submission. You will not accept anything that is told to you just because somebody said it. You will do your homework. You will follow the path that you need to in order to get what information is necessary to succeed. We live in an information age. There is no excuse on this earth why you cannot find out or learn how to do anything you want to do in this life. Not now. No. Everything we want is right at our fingertips. Unfortunately, the smarter our phones get and the smarter our televisions get, the dumber we get. It's a sad case, y'all. You know, the world, the entire globe participated in a propaganda campaign when we were convinced, not all of us, by the powers that be, that Muammar Abu Minyar al-Gaddafi was crazy. Remember that? We were told he was a mad dog. Media ran with that. Muammar Gaddafi was a crazy mad dog. But in fact, he wasn't crazy. He was on his way to making the African continent into a global superpower. And for that, he was eliminated. So, they tried to intimidate him. They tried to outthink him. They couldn't outwork him, so they killed him. See, that's the fourth one. That's the fourth defeat. They couldn't do any of those three things, so they killed him. See, this is the way the game works. Same thing has applied throughout history, black history in America. You got black folks that worked hard to get what they had. So they couldn't beat them because they was shit. Black folks were making more money than some of these white folks. They tried to intimidate them. They wasn't going. And so they wasn't no out thinking them. Just like, yeah, what to do? What to do? Well, let's kill them. That's the last resort. Yet the propaganda would have you to believe that black folks are the violent ones. See how that works? If you go to other countries and they automatically think, oh my God, it's black people. They black people. You from the hood? They want you to tell stories of murder and death and drugs. Why? Because the propaganda campaign that has gone on, that many of us have played into over the last 30, 40, 50, well, longer than that, would have them to believe that black people are violent and sex crazed, and the list goes on. Propaganda. Global propaganda. People, every day, practice all forms of religion rooted in propaganda. You have cults and people walking around every day. And people are, well, I mean, you know, it's a free country. People are entitled to believe whatever they want to believe. That's just what it is. But let's keep it 100. Why do they believe what they believe? Did something happen to them that actually was unexplainable? Or did some occult thing happen to them? Who knows? But the bottom line is, whatever it was, they believed it. The question becomes, what's the truth? We live in an information age. Now, the difference between then and now, though, in past times, is that the information now, it travels so quickly. Like, it doesn't take but a split second for you to put something on the internet and it's gone. It's out there. It's a difference. It's easy to wage your own propaganda campaign these days. Simple fact is, 75 to 80% of people will not check to see the accuracy of any of this stuff for themselves. Let me give you an example. I literally just gave you a statistic, a percentage. And I bet you most of y'all wouldn't even think about checking it. See how that works? It didn't even occur to you to check that I just said 75 to 80%. I could be dead ass wrong. But if you don't check for yourself, this is how propaganda begins. See how I got you right there? Mm-hmm. Always remember, though, what I say on this show. Don't believe anything that I say. Check it for yourself. Do your homework. I am only here to plant seeds, y'all. I'm not here to give dissertations, even though sometimes it seems like I do. Now, during World War II, they used a thing called propaganda posters. And I don't know if y'all have ever seen any of those, but they have all sorts of things on them that would have, just stuff to try and tell other soldiers what to do and what not to do. This was actually a very popular thing that they did during World War II. The Germans did. They would send leaflets. They'd drop them out of planes, and they'd send leaflets to colored soldiers telling them that their country didn't care about them, that this was not their war, and the list goes on. Now, question is, did they lie though? See, it's a propaganda campaign, but did they lie? They gave this information literally to soldiers who came back from fighting for their country only to be treated once again like secondhand citizens. There's stories of black soldiers coming back from the war being beaten to death because they thought they were better than white people in their uniform. Yeah. See, this actually happened. We're not talking about propaganda. We're talking about facts. And the fact is, these things happen. They did the same thing in Vietnam. In the Vietnam War. The Vietnamese, hey man, this ain't y'all's fight. And if I recall, it was Brother Malcolm X who made the point of stating, oh no, I'm sorry, it was Muhammad Ali who stated that the Viet Cong ain't never did nothing to him. That it was the white man in America who was his opposer, his oppressor, the one who kept him down. See? So whose fight really was it? And he refused. He stood for something. He refused to go and fight some people who had no beef with him over a beef that them folks had that he couldn't even get treated like a proper citizen. Couldn't even, world champion boxer, couldn't go sit in a white restaurant and eat his food peacefully without being harassed. Won the Olympics, came home, got treated like he might as well be still picking cotton. Which brings me to the amazing thing about America. America uses propaganda on its own people. Prime example, y'all remember this famous poster right here? I want you for the U.S. Army nearest recruiting stations. I can remember seeing these when I was younger. And the funny thing is, realize it or not, that is a propaganda poster of sorts. It is a propaganda poster. But the whole point was, and it was actually stolen from the British, because the British had one similar to it in the World War I. And the fact is, this poster is nothing more than an attempt at motivating people to support the country, the red, white, and blue. Be patriotic. See, when 9/11 happened, we had all these people jumped up and everybody wanted to be a patriot. Be a patriot. We're going to go get them folks. But the truth is, the propaganda, they told us that somebody in Pakistan, Afghanistan, and all of these other countries attacked America. When the fact is, it wasn't but one group of people. One man and his crew, Saddam Hussein. I mean, not Saddam Hussein. I'm sorry, y'all. Y'all know who I'm talking about. That terrorist dude. Anyway, we ended up going over there and tearing up the whole Middle East. A 20-year war. Do y'all realize that was the longest war in this country's history? And everybody jumped on that bandwagon and y'all remember I said about bandwagon? That's that's number 7 on the list of propaganda methods. We bandwagon and everybody was like, yeah, let's go get them. The patriots jumped up. People enlisted in the military more than they had since the Vietnam, and they was ready to go fight. But go fight who? See, that propaganda machine created anything anybody needed to feel like we got to defend America. And black folks, in a country that will not even defend you, who will allow your police to murder you in the streets and treat us like second-class citizens, profile us, beat us, and we jump up and are in a great big old rush to run out and protect this so-called democracy. You know, the one where they're steady trying to figure out new ways to keep black folks from voting? That same one. Yeah. But they want you to fight, though. See, let's remember now, very first war in America, on American soil, first soldier to die was a black man, Crispus Attucks. But here we are, still, all these hundreds of years later, fighting for a simple thing like equality. Sad part is, if they loved us so much, this would not be a fight. We wouldn't be fighting for anything. We would be given the God-given right for freedom and the ability to function normally without the propaganda campaign that consistently keeps us at the back seat. See, you cannot, I heard a woman the other day make it real clear. I mean, she did a phenomenal job to me, but she described what we deal with in America in a game of Monopoly. And I thought it was very interesting. She said, okay, so you pull out your Monopoly board and you are going to play, you're a black person, you're going to play a white person. But the white person gets to roll their dice and they get to go around the board 400 times before you get to go. And if you do go before those 400 times in there, while they're steady going around the board buying property and collecting money, when you go, for 50 of those years, everything you make while going around the board, you got to get it in. See, that's slavery right there. Then, after you start to accumulate whatever's left, after those 400 years of them accumulating all their wealth and their power, then you get to try and accumulate a little bit of wealth and power. But if you get too much, they get to make a law that says it's okay for them to burn yours down and take what you have. And then you get to start over. But it's supposed to be equal, right? See, this is America. And propaganda would have them to believe that all things are equal. All lives matter. Fuck out of here. Anyway. Woo. Propaganda's all around us, y'all, every day. Another term for propaganda, propagandist, is a spin doctor. Y'all know what a spin doctor is, right? A person who takes things and makes them fit the narrative necessary for them to prosper from said information. The term is a combination of a sense of spin, meaning a special point of view, this poor interpretation, presented for the purpose of influencing opinion, and a sense of doctor, meaning a person who restores, repairs, or fine-tunes things, or perhaps simply a practitioner. You know, there are people that politicians pay that literally do this for a living. They actually take information and spin it in a way that makes it sound plausible, but it's usually divisive and very dangerous and destructive. A spin doctor can be identified as public relations advisors, pollsters, and media consultants who develop deceptive or misleading messages. They're even called spin meisters. These are people who take the truth, attempt to manipulate it in a way that benefits their cause. Sort of like our last administration, who had a term for lies known as, if y'all remember this, alternative facts. Now, the truth is the truth and a lie is a lie. But alternative facts. Is there such a thing? No. Just shows you how creative that term is. You actually have to think about it. An alternative fact. What is that? We shouldn't even be thinking about that. Facts are the facts. The lies are the lies. Let's keep it 100. Propaganda allows a man to be incarcerated for 42 years and then released recently and exonerated for a triple murder committed in 1979. This man didn't kill anybody. Spent 42 years in a penitentiary and gets out because Missouri has a law. He gets nothing. Nothing. What put him there? Propaganda, lies, black skin. When the last time we seen a white person released from a penitentiary after 10, 20, 30 years that didn't commit the crime? We see it in the movies all the time. But in real life, every time we see somebody just got exonerated for a murder or some other thing like that, it's always black folks. You see just how expendable we are in this propaganda, in this propagandized nation. This is what we operate off of now. It is the fuel that drives America. Propaganda today, right now. We have people who have taken the insurrection at the Capitol and made it into a vacation resort, saying that, oh, there was nothing, there was no criminal going, nothing happened there. We were smiling with the police. Propaganda. It's a dangerous, dangerous thing. This man spent 42 years in the penitentiary. But what's equally as bad is that whoever killed those 3 people went free to kill again if they chose. Propaganda is a self-serving agenda. And propaganda has nothing with what we refer to in this country as justice. Y'all, you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know what the point for tonight's show was. I haven't made my mind up yet. I just haven't. I'm at a loss. I just want to point these things out. I'm only here to plant seeds, y'all. I'm the Johnny Appleseed of information. That's all. I just want to give you something to think about. I guess it's because I've become so cynical. It's because I know that we live in a society full of lies, because I know that there are people in the world who are happier with the lie than the truth, because, of course, they say the truth hurts. We all know that. But the fact is, the facts are never going to be anything else. You can't make them be something else. It's the truth. Facts are truth. I want to operate in facts. So like I told you earlier, I had a guy tell me about this election fraud and what he knew. And so I asked him what he knew. He couldn't provide me with not one fact. Much like the administration who told the lie to begin with. No facts. This is why the same judges appointed by him and his administration have not upheld not one lawsuit, not one complaint, not one has been stolen. No, why? Because they're lies. It's as simple as that. There's no way to get around it. Ain't no changing it. Facts are facts, and the facts only have one truth. There's no alternative facts. There's no lie in the truth. And until we realize and recognize that and are willing to make those around us face that, and when I say make them face it, I don't mean, hold them down and, force it on them, spoon feed them. I'm just saying that Stephanie Collier said fuzzy math. Exactly. I love that. Yes. What I'm saying is that all we can do is state the facts and let the rest die, because we'll beat ourselves to death if we sit here and we attempt to try and make people who don't want to believe the facts, who want to believe what they want to believe, man, it's not worth it. Just remember, there's only three ways you can be beat. You can be outworked, outthought, or intimidated. And as long as you don't let any of those three things happen, and if you actually have a person or people or an organization who is willing to go that far to beat you, I suggest you go and purchase a firearm and watch your back, because the next step is to kill you. That's a fact. That's been our history. Watch your back, y'all. You got to watch your back, because we're living in a very strange time, y'all. And with that said, it's time for me to go, because I'm headed down a rabbit hole right now if I'm not very, very careful. Oh, and don't forget, for those who want to continue to talk about, oh, everything is, because, there's going to be people who want to see this show and be like, hey, you make everything about race. Well, guess what? I'm not the one that made it about race. I'm not the one who even created the idea of racism. Nope. I'm operating with the tools and ammunition given to me by those who decided that that was actually a thing. Yes, everything is about race. If it wasn't, it wouldn't be on applications to ask you what your race is before you fill out something for something else that has nothing to do with the color of your skin. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And I still encourage each and every one of you, when you fill out an application, put white. Yes, put white. And if they say, oh, you can't do that, say, yes, I can. I identify as white. If a person can identify as male, female, well, no matter who they are, I can identify as white. Now, I dare you tell me I can't, and I'll take you to court and I'll sue you for discriminating against me and violating my human rights. Oh, y'all think it's a joke. I'm dead ass serious. I'm dead serious. Man, I want each and every one of y'all to have yourselves a wonderful evening. Have a fantastic weekend, because the weekend is coming. Even though it's Wednesday, it's coming. And I want y'all to, tell somebody you love them, hug them, kiss them, treat them right, make them feel better. And I'm going and eat. Y'all have a great evening. Thank you for stopping in and hanging out and checking out this show. Y'all don't forget to hit the share, subscribe, hit all them buttons. I need you to hit them buttons, y'all. And I want y'all to have yourselves a fantastic night. Thank you, and we out of here.